episode may contain language or discussions that may be offensive or triggering. Refer to the episode summary for details. Welcome to On Her Terms. I am your host, Charlene Ketchum, and I am joined today by my cousin and my bestie, Tiffany Hogan, who is host of B.A.D, Mom's Village podcast. B.A.D as in busy, accomplished, and dedicated. She's also an attorney and real estate professional, and my cousin. And also my bestie, Lauren Spearman, who is the host of the Check on Your Strong Friends podcast. Lauren is also a motivational speaker and advocate. And both of these ladies are awesome, awesome, awesome sauce. And we all are launching or have launched podcasts this year. So this is the first time you all are hearing from me. But I wanted to invite my friends because we've launched, I think Lauren's was in October Lauren's was in September. And Tiffany's was in October, back-to-back podcasts. And so I thought this was the perfect opportunity for the three of us to get together and chat about our motivations, how 2020 has been for us, our motivations for starting these podcasts, and what our vision is for 2021. So since you launched yours first, Lauren, we'll start with how has 2020 been for you?
2020 has been a roller coaster ride. At the start of it, when we lost Kobe Bryant, it was like we lost a family member. And then I actually lost two close family members subsequently after that. Then I lost two spiritual fathers. So it started for me as the year of loss. Mm-hmm. I also lost a relationship. So yeah, it started for me in a way that I was like a twilight zone. And when I got furloughed from my job in May, that was just like the straw that broke the camel's back. At that point, I was just like, okay, there's nothing more for me to lose. But what happened was I was a guest on a podcast back in February, and that podcaster ended up reaching out to me and saying, you've been on my heart. You've been on my spirit for a while. You did so great in that interview. You should start your own podcast. And I'll admit I had doubt because even though I teach and speak about the bread aisle theory, that, you could walk to the bread aisle and Sara Lee's making money, Bunny Bread's making money, Colonial's making money. Mm-hmm. So don't be discouraged, if you're in an oversaturated market. I teach that. But my first initial response was, everybody has a podcast. And why would anybody listen to me? So I had to, I ran from it for a little bit, but different people just kept mentioning to me about podcast. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it. Took a workshop and it just kind of blossomed from there. God gave me the name and the concept, and Check on Your Strong Friends simply came from a place of seeing a lot of people in leadership and a lot of affluent people commit suicide. Even as much as, in the St. Louis area, we've heard the other day about the attorney from Brown & Brown. So when I saw that pattern, I was like, okay, what is going on where people who seemingly have it all keep committing suicide? And Check on Your Strong Friends was born because I realized that a lot of times the people who seem to have it all together, that everybody depends on, that everybody doesn't think to check on, are the ones who need checking on the most.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Tiffany, 2020?
Well, Lauren, don't feel bad at all about running for a few months because I ran for 3 years. So the way that B.A.D Mom's Village came about was because I have an almost 3-year-old, and my pregnancy was a surprise. Not a surprise in the sense that it happened because we're all adults. We know how it happens, but we were not planning. And so at the time, I was just completely like, what do I do with this parenting thing? Because I had decided I was just going to be the cool auntie. In fact, I was preparing to move back to Georgia because I was still living out in the Midwest at the time. So did not have a job, didn't have a doctor back in Georgia, any of that, and just got thrown into it all at once. So I had to try to figure out what does parenting look like for me? Because I knew there were certain things that I wanted to do if I ever did have children that wasn't necessarily traditionally the way that it had been done in my family, not necessarily the way that I had seen some friends do it. And so started looking at information. It's just overwhelming what's out there. Made the mistake of joining some of the parenting boards on Facebook and following some other things on other social media pages. And my goodness, people can be extremely judgmental. And some of the things that you read is like, okay, do I need to go sit in time out in the corner now as the parent? Because I just feel like I was just shunned by everybody. So I wanted to create a safe space for moms in particular who are out here being career professionals or stay-at-home moms to be able to get some questions answered that you may be embarrassed to ask, or that you don't have a family history to follow up on, and you just want a safe place to feel like you can discuss with girlfriends and get some good answers and reliable resources. So that's how Bad Moms Village was formed over 3 years of jotting down ideas about topics. And then at the beginning of this year, I just felt like Lauren had a year of loss, but I felt like at the beginning of the year, I was just in a place where I didn't have a whole lot of clarity. I started a new job a couple of years ago, absolutely love it, but it still felt like something was missing. And so COVID actually, for all of the negative things that it's done, and I don't take any of that away from anyone, has actually been a pretty positive place for me, because it allowed me the opportunity to sit still and to listen and to think and write some things through. And then I had a great friend that said, look, you have all these ideas. What are you doing? Make something happen. And she actually gave me a deadline that was not very long at all. And she said, launch it. And so Bad Moms Village was launched, and here we are.
And I remember when you texted me and you said you'd had that meeting and your friend told you, get on it.
Yep.
And I think it was a few weeks later. And
It was.
You had the.
It was seriously like, I think September, because it was funny. She asked me to take a look at something for her. And so when I looked at it, she's just been doing all these amazing things over the past few years. Her name's Patrina, and she is a golf coach. So she has formed a group for women to teach them about business golfing, which is amazing. That's how she and I actually initially met. But then she's done all these other amazing things, and she was actually preparing this other project that was related to kids. And so she wanted some input from my nieces and my son. And when I sent it back to her, sent their feedback, I was like, you're so amazing. I'm just so amazed at all these things that you do, and you step out on faith and just go for it. And I've honestly been afraid to do it. And she said, say no more. When are you free to talk next week? We're getting together. And seriously, the very next week, and this was September, we met, and she said, you already have all the ideas. You already have the outline. You just need some help figuring out how to execute it. I've done a podcast before. Let me tell you what you need to do. And we had a meeting each week leading up to the launch, and she made me commit to a launch date. That was seriously, I think it was like 5 weeks. And so we launched on October 15th.
Wow. That's awesome. I mean, and I think what's so inspiring and just gives me warm fuzzies about this is, a lot of times we talk so much about the darker side of this year, and like you said, Tiffany, it's not to diminish that, because that's all part of the journey too. Those valleys, they're part of it too. But at the same time, there's been some amazing rebirths and transformations this year. And just seeing the work that, both of you two did, and just the courage, and the investment, and being willing to put yourself out there. Prior to this year, I never did Zoom.
Really?
I've still never gone live on Facebook. I've
Oh
still never gone live on anything. Still never gone live. Don't intend to. You see, we're pre-recording this. I do Zooms only because of COVID, because of the meetings at work. But whenever possible, I have a little photo that stays on the screen. They don't even see me. They only see me when I have to be seen. So it's just, I've never really been a fan of that. And I didn't really think you could engage with people that way and feel energy that way. But during COVID, I learned I need hugs. I need to see people's faces and smiles.
Yes.
And this is a way to be able to do that, especially back in March and April, during the stay at home orders. This was the only way to see people. And I was still resistant. And I think part of it was because I was kind of frustrated, that this is what we have to do. So I was like, I ain't doing no Zoom video calls with people. We can talk on the phone. I'm like, this is not socializing. People were scheduling happy hours and
see, I absolutely love it. So I've been trying to tell people all my life that I'm actually an introvert, and nobody wanted to believe me.
You say that
right now.
I know you say that.
I am an introvert. This has been glorious for me because I'm always usually so busy, whether it was with career, nonprofit commitments, family commitments, whatever. I wasn't even sitting in this house that I'm paying a mortgage on monthly, At one point, which is probably why I was feeling so confused at the beginning of the year, I felt like my son was spending more time with the nanny last year than he was with me at times. And I'm like, that's not okay. This is his formative years. Yes, I want to get back into my grind, but at the same time, my son is my top priority right now. Everything else has to take a back seat. So I actually had started like blocking off time in my calendar and stuff, but it makes it so much easier for me now because my job requires that I cover such a large territory within our division. That's why he was spending so much time with the nanny, because I was traveling for meetings or for hearings or whatever. I can do those by Zoom now.
Yeah.
And then when I want to have interaction with friends and stuff, FaceTime, Zoom, Google Duo. And maybe it was more natural for us too, because since I lived in the Midwest and my family was here, like when my nieces were born, we used FaceTime a lot for them to know my face and everything. And we do the same with my son, because even though my family is in Georgia, we live in different parts of the state. And so like every night, my parents like to be able to tell him good night. And he and my dad want to talk about tractors at the end of every night. So they could do that on Google Duo and share videos and stuff. So, it had always been a daily thing for us. But yeah, I absolutely love it. So friends, I apologize in advance if I start turning down your invitations when the world opens back up. Like, I'm still cool with Zoom happy hours though.
I've gotten used to it. I've gotten used to them. And Lauren, I think you've always been kind of active on social media. And how did you adjust to the Zoom social world?
I'm kind of in the middle because I'm an ambivert. So during the stay-at-home order, I was like your cousin. I was like, this is perfect for me because now my introvert, side of me can, retreat, and I can catch up on my shows that I haven't seen in forever and binge watch and, be with the kids like Tiffany. So I think at the first part of it, I was super excited and elated. But then I got to be like you, Char, where I'm like, I need hugs. I need interaction. Like, this cannot be life. So I started like sneaking out little by little to like intimate social distancing events with masks on. And so that's how I kind of got my fix. But Zoom itself, as far as interviews, I absolutely love it because most of the time I'm sitting in a chair. I don't have to have on my shapewear, my Spanx that's suffocating me under my dress.
Girl.
I can have on pajama bottoms if I want to. I don't have to have on heels. My feet are free. So that part of it is like, yes, as long as I look and sound professional from the top up, we are good.
Right.
I may or may not have on pajama bottoms right now.
Yes, this is absolutely perfect for that. And what's funny is I've always been more of an introvert in terms of, I'm social because when I need to be, and I enjoy being around people, but I value more one-on-one connections. And, when you're at a big event, you can't really have that. And then people are acting for the most part.
Yes.
And I don't want to do that. I do it at work. And so I don't want to do that when I'm not at work. Even social gatherings for work, it's like, okay, I can do this for a little bit. Now I'm tired. I want to go and do my own thing. And I think that might have been with the stay-at-home orders and us doing Zoom and remote working via video, like I've worked remotely for a long time, but now with everyone doing it, it's like that line is blurred between work and home. And I had to get used to that because I was uncomfortable with that because I need it to be separate. Like I don't necessarily need you to see my happy because I'm big on energy, and so after some calls and dealing with some people, I got to burn my sage because it's like, I got to get this stuff out of here for real. It's like, this is normally energy and conversations I'm not having at home. And it's more real when it's on the screen and you can see the person and the body language and all of that. So there are pros and cons to it. Like you said, Tiffany, I have enjoyed being able to see my friends and, people that I haven't seen in months, not in real life. I haven't seen them or touched them, but to be able to see them on screen makes a difference. Like I haven't seen you since last year. Was it last year?
I think so. Yeah.
And at this point,
we've talked and text a lot, but we hadn't really done any FaceTime or anything. We talked about doing the wine thing, which we still need to do, but
I've adjusted. I'm doing dinners now on Zoom. Like I've had dinner. Yeah, it's like straight up chowing down with friends and everything. Yeah. And I don't get dressed and do anything fancy. It's like I've gotten used to it because it's the new normal, but I think it's helped us stay more connected.
Yes.
And that was what really inspired me to want to do On Her Terms, the podcast and YouTube show, because this year, like Tiffany, this year I'm an empath, so I was more impacted by what other people were experiencing versus what I was experiencing personally. For me personally, this year has been phenomenal for personal development and just having some honest talks with myself. And doing that check-in and saying, this is where you want it to be now, and this is where you want to be in the future. Okay, what are we doing to get there? And being real honest about myself. And I made lists. I'm big on lists and making plans. And I understand that plans change, but I also understand that if you don't even start planning, you're setting yourself up for failure and disappointment.
Right.
So this year provided an amazing opportunity for me, and On Her Terms is actually a companion to She.confidential, she as in SHE, she.confidential.com. And that's the blog. And on that blog, there will be resources and articles that stem from each of the podcast and YouTube show conversations. So for example, we've got upcoming episodes about, how to develop financial plans, wellness, how to deal with trauma, how to improve your body image so you can have better sexual health, more confidence about your body. How do Black men and women protect each other better? For each of those podcast episodes, there's going to be additional supplements on the She Confidential website. So I'll have additional articles, possibly different new interviews, resource sheets and everything. So they'll work together because you can only cover so much. Y'all know you can only cover so much in your podcast episode. And so
I have been running into that with the last couple of episodes that I recorded. I'm like, okay, this is great. The information is great, but I feel like we need to go for like another half hour at least. And so I've been thinking about how to deal with that. Do I bring some of the guests back, as recurring guests? Because I had not initially planned to do a blog component with mine, but now, because exactly what you're saying, I am considering it now, adding that to the business plan, because in a sense, I feel like we're kind of cheating my listeners a little bit with them not being able to get more of the conversation from my guests.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many ways you can go with these discussions. And a big part of my motivation for this was, I've been trying to do things to empower and bring women together since I was a teenager. When I was 18, 19.
You do.
Yeah, you've been to some of the things. See, Tiffany's lived away, so she hasn't been part of most of those things. And then during the years of law school and everything, we didn't do anything because we were depressed and just
right. Just law school, the dark years,
life. But But when I was 18, 19, I was working at Children's Hospital. I was going to school full time, and I worked in the writing center part time. So I had three major commitments, and I had a boyfriend. So, and it was a serious, steady relationship. So I had four major commitments. And I worked with all these women and how these friends who were just stressed. And so this is around this time of year, because my first get together was in November. I said, we need to have a relaxation party. And so I decided we're going to have an adult slumber party. So I rented a hotel suite. And this was done in collaboration with my best friend, Tanya, who passed away years ago. But Tanya was the brains behind this, because she was amazing at planning parties and was just much more outgoing than I was. And so we got this hotel suite. And I think I charged everybody $25 or $30. My mom cooked all the food. Me and Tanya went and got the liquor. At the time, like I said, I was 18, 19. So Tanya had to get the liquor. And we went to the adult stores and bought all these toys and lube and towels, after sex towels, all this real fun stuff. And so the ladies came to the party, and I only invited 10 or 12 women because I wanted it to be an intimate gathering. And so you came in, we collected your keys, and we played games. You ate, you drank as much as you wanted. I hired a stripper. The man came, he danced for us and played more games. You won your prizes. And one of the women won the vibrator. That was the grand prize. And she didn't know what it was. And she's like,
Oh,
oh. And this lady had been married for a long time. And
oh,
you know, what is this? And she said, well, I don't want that. And at the time, I didn't even own a vibrator. I knew what it was, but I didn't own one. And I was like, well, okay, I'll keep it. But Tanya was like, no, telling her, you need to keep this. And so it led to this conversation about just satisfaction with intimacy with our partners. And I was shocked because I was 19. So I was, new to all of this. And I just assumed that women who were older than me, especially married women, were having amazing sex lives.
no.
And that was not what was discussed.
There are women that have never had an orgasm and don't know how to tell their partners to please them.
That is what unfolded. And I remember thinking, on top of us carrying our families, our churches, our jobs, the entire community, we can't even be on, we don't even have the space, or the threshold to learn about ourselves. And it really made me sad, because I was just like, women, a lot of us are so unfulfilled, and then we don't even know it. We know something's missing, something's not quite all there, that I'm missing out on something, but I don't really know what it is. And there's a lot of shame in terms of talking about that to other women, because I've probably only got two friends. Tanya was one that I would have talked to about my sex life. And, and so because there's like, okay, is there a shame attached to it? Or are you here, you don't tell other women your business. Don't talk about your man to other women and all those things. And so I decided we need to do more of these. And so we started having more of those get-togethers where we could just share and create that safe space. I think you're about to say something, Tiffany.
And I think that's awesome because, I think that's awesome because I think more so than just women in general, I think in the Black community, there are so many more topics that are taboo. And there are certain things that we'll actually be having an upcoming episode called Things My Mom Didn't Say, because there are so many things that our mothers don't pass along to us. And it's not necessarily their fault. It's because it wasn't passed along to them. Yes. And with certain things like sex, your cycle, vaginal health, all of that is seen as keep it a secret. You just need to, take care of it yourself and don't talk to anybody about that because we don't talk about those things. So I think that's actually one of the ways that going to predominantly white colleges and law schools actually helped me a little bit, because I was exposed to other cultures, formed bonds with these other women, and they were open.
They are open. Yeah. Much more open.
Like, what? We talking about that today?
And
Really?
and it takes you aback. It's like, how were you raised? Like, I remember thinking that so many times, like, who raised you? Like, I don't talk about that.
Yeah, but then I realized like that was commonplace for them to have those conversations and to feel confident in their sexuality and in their womanhood and to have those conversations. And I'm like, I started talking to some of my close friends from home and stuff, and they're like, yeah, my mama didn't, she didn't even talk to me about my first cycle. She was like, here's some pads, here's some tampons, go do your thing, and that seemed to be overwhelmingly a lot of our experiences. So I think it's great when you can create a safe place where we can have those conversations and they're organic
Yes.
and they are, they're welcome, there's no judgment. Ask the questions. I would much rather, it's like a kid. There's a lot of debate about children entering puberty earlier these days because of the hormones and food and stuff. So you begin to have the debate. Do I have to talk to my child at 11 or 12 about sex because they're now looking more mature? So it's like that. You would rather them get the information from you, knowing that it's credible information, it's the right information, than from getting it from someone on the street. And, your girlfriends are the same way. Like, girl, I want you to know that if you have an issue with BV, it's not something you're doing, it's your pH. Let's talk about that.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I mean, and we don't, and I get that reluctance to initiate those conversations, the place that comes from. And that's why it's also important for us to talk within our community, because there's a lot of history, that impacts those conversations, because it's, for Black girls, it always, Black girls and women, our bodies have always been scrutinized. Our bodies have never been safe. It never fully belonged to us. A lot of those conversations are taboo because our moms have, even if it's not on a conscious level, they've always been trying to, keep us away from that womanhood, keep us as little girls as long as possible, because then maybe those bad people won't look at you, they won't target you. And so it's been it's a need of protection and preservation of that innocence that has led to that reluctance of having those conversations. But it's great that we as women and as peers can start to say, hey, girl, this is going on. Is this weird? Is this normal? What?
Right.
Without giving each other the side eye. And I'll tell you, it's taken some time for me to get comfortable with having those conversations. It's helped that I've always had friends who were the yang to my yin. They were always the more outgoing partner for me. And I've been able to bounce things and kind of let their energy fuel me and also help me feel more comfortable and less I'm very self-conscious. And so having a different circle of friends, variety in that has really helped me with that self-consciousness. And so I went from having those parties to then having, different events with my girls. And recently I started the Purple Sisterhood, which is like my secret girls friend group. And Lauren's been part of some of those activities and just even us encouraging each other in our little secret Facebook page has been helpful. And so this year I was thinking, we can't get together. The sisterhood can't get together. And we had all these plans for this year. And I started thinking, I've had such a diverse professional career at this point. I'll be 40 in December. And I feel like I've changed careers several times. I've worked in medical publishing for nearly 20 years. And I worked in hospital settings, not as a clinician, but alongside the clinicians, and then working in the legal profession at a non-for-profit and family law and juvenile law, and now working in state government. I've been a solo practitioner, entrepreneur, where I didn't eat unless I worked and was able to build some hours, so I've worked in every sector. I've done a lot of different things and been exposed to a lot of different things professionally. And what that has done for me is exposed me to a lot of different women and a lot of smart women and a lot of resourceful women and a lot of them Black women. And so I was thinking about, what do I want to do with all that? Because we're here in 2020 with everyone struggling with COVID, with the economic crisis. with all of the social issues, the racial inequities that continue to prevail in this country, and this huge sense of hopelessness. And I'm a big believer, in how energy fuels us and can change us and drive us. I was like, what can I contribute right now that will fuel more power, and more intention and positivity behind this energy? I don't want people to feel hopeless. I want people to know that they have power in them and that they have a force for good and for change, but we have to be intentional. We have to be collective. And it starts with women. There's this myth that's perpetuated that Black women don't get along and like each other. That's not true.
Not true.
It's like the first time I met Lauren, I was like, because Lauren actually used to work with my sister.
Yes.
And so I borrowed her from my sister. And the first time I met Lauren, I was like, oh my gosh, I just saw this glow around this woman. And I latched on to her. And it's, you meet people like that. And I've never had a problem with giving another woman props. It's just, and so that's not my experience. And I recognize that that's not the case for everyone, but I wanted to provide a platform, to be able to highlight issues that impact our community, specifically Black women, and talk about, how can we be empowered to address these things? How can we be empowered to create more wealth, for our children, for our families? How can we be more empowered to create wellness so that we aren't vulnerable to things like COVID or just the flu?
Yes.
How can we reclaim our neighborhoods and rebuild the blocks? How do we balance religion with spirituality? How do we let go of trauma? How do we find our voices? How do we figure out how to be happy? How do we figure out how to have real intimacy? And I ain't talking about orgasms. I'm talking about real intimacy with your woman.
Because intimacy has nothing to do with sex.
Not at all.
It's all those things, so I wanted to create a platform to talk about those things specifically as they impact Black women, and create also a platform for people to be able to see that there's a lot of professionals and there's a lot of networking out here to be done. Each of the guests, one of the reasons, that I plan to include every guest social media handle and business affiliations on the She.confidential website and on the podcast links is because I want people to know where to find people who can help them. Like there's so many, like Lauren, you were talking about the bread aisle. People are always worried, like, oh, there's so many other people doing this. Is there room for me? Yeah, because Kathy may not want to talk to Charlene, but she may see Lauren and think, oh my gosh, that's who's for me. Or she may see Tiffany and say, my sister would be a great fit, to work with Tiffany. There's room for all of us. And so I want to be able to highlight all of the work that all of you amazing women are doing. And so that was the motivation for me for the She.confidential blog and the On Her Terms podcast. Now, I didn't come up with the names. I didn't come up with the logos or anything. I worked with this amazing marketing and branding company called Connect Branding based in Atlanta, and it's Black owned, and they have been fabulous. I talked to them about my vision and wanting to empower women, educate and empower women, and they took it and ran with it. So I can't take credit, for developing those components, but I definitely, want this to be a platform, that not only entertains, but really enlightens and really empowers women to identify and find that power that they have within them. So my show by the time people watch this episode, it will be the very first episode, and we'll be launching. But I'll have new episodes every Tuesday. There will be 10 episodes in this first season, and you'll have the option to watch on YouTube or listen on all the major podcast streaming platforms, or you can read the transcript on the She.confidential website. I wanted to have those read, watch, listen options because people consume content in different ways. So, you can catch the episodes in either of those platforms. And in addition, on the She.confidential website, I'll have additional resource links, articles, bonus videos on the YouTube page. So there's so much we can do with this. And I intend to do a lot of collaboration with you two ladies because it's all related. We're really all talking about the same things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's just our platforms complement one another. And so this is the first of many collaborations. I'm speaking it into existence. There will be something so grand on the horizon with the three of us because the time is now.
I agree. And I know that my faith tells me there are no accidents, there are no coincidences, but there are divine connections. And it's so funny because my nonprofit, the Bounce Back Advocate Inc., speaks to exactly what Tiffany is talking about, which is mothers. Like that is my huge passion because I know that, like she said, being busy, being stretched in all different directions and, being mom, employee, boss, wife, sister, cousin, daughter, at the end of the day, you need a place where you can decompress and where you can vent and where you can be pampered and loved on, because a lot of us would never take the time to do it on our own. So just listening to her talk about her podcast, I'm like, yep, that's right up my alley. And then everything that you said is your goals with On Her Terms podcast ties directly into what I'm doing with Check on Your Strong Friends. My next season is all women. The first season I did myself and men, but the next season is all women. And we are talking about things from women who were sexually abused when they were younger and how it's affecting their lives and their intimate relationships now, to women who are corporate divas and bubbly and the most positive people you would ever meet, but you don't know that they've had suicide attempts and that they've been domestically abused. So it's just so funny just listening to you ladies talk about your visions because they absolutely correlate with everything I have going on.
I'm so proud of y'all. Truly. It's amazing. Yeah, I'm so proud of both of you and excited, like super excited. So, what is, just so that the audience is clear on where to find you and when to listen, Lauren, can you share your website, social media handles, and tell us about when your new podcast episodes are released and where people can listen?
Absolutely. So my episodes release every Thursday. I like to release around 6:00 p.m. because in my mind, people can listen on the ride home from work or while they're cooking dinner or things like that. So every Tuesday, 6:00 p.m., you can find me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Anchor, all the major streaming platforms. And you can find me on Instagram at Check on Your Strong Friends. And my personal page is the Lauren Spearman. So those are the places that you can find me. But if you just want info about me, then my website is www.bouncebackadvocate.com.
Excellent. Tiffany, and where can the audience find and listen to you?
So we actually release on Thursdays as well at midnight. And I went through the same process as Lauren. When will people listen? So thinking about busy moms, we decided to release at midnight on Thursdays because then we figured going into the weekends, that's when moms tend to have a little bit more free time, or if they wanted to listen on the way to school or pick up, then they could do that. So you can catch us on all of the major platforms as well. Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Anchor, and yeah, every single Thursday right now. And Instagram is at Bad Moms Village. And you can actually also leave us voice messages using our link that's in the bio on there. And we want people to do that because we do want it to be a village environment. And we want to make sure that we are getting the questions answered that you have. So leave us messages. We love to see feedback. And we have included questions already that we've gotten from people in some of the episodes.
Oh, that's so awesome. I didn't know about that feature. Neat. And so make sure you all are subscribing when whatever podcast platform you use, hit that subscribe button. And that way you'll get alerts whenever, they release new episodes for the podcast, certainly. And like their social media pages so that you get the alerts as well. And share, tell a friend, we need to spread the good news. And this is good news and lots more good news to come, which makes me want to talk about 2021. So what are the goals for your podcast and anything else that you want to share related to 2021.
My 2021 goals are simply to dive deeper. My motto going forward is the people you know, the stories you don't. So I want to have, prominent business people or prominent advocates in the community. But I just want to dive deeper into the mental health and wellness piece so that people out there that are silently suffering can know that you can still overcome. There is light at the other end of the tunnel, and it's not, mental health is not just exclusive to people that are impoverished, but people at every level are experiencing those issues. So just kind of normalizing the conversation around mental health more. I hope to have a conference if COVID ever lets up, because I'm all about in-person interaction. So definitely be on the lookout for that.
Excellent. Tiffany?
So I love it, Lauren. I love dive deeper. So similar, Lauren, and similarly, what we want to do is continue to build the community of women and moms and the people in our village that support us, because it's not just for moms either. And what we want to make sure people understand is every single episode, we always ask our guests, how can people in our village support moms that may be experiencing this as well? So, definitely, even if you're not a mom, please still listen in, because it may be some information that you can provide to help a mom out that you know. So just continuing to build that. We too are also looking forward to the possibility of a conference. And then we have some other things that we will be building on the brand, potentially including merchandise and possibly a children's book series. So
awesome. So excited. Oh my gosh. All I see, so Tisha will tell y'all, that's my sister. So my new thing with her is I tell her, girl, we just wake up every day to win.
Absolutely.
We wake up to win. All us, we just waking up, just winning, just spreading the good news and just loving on each other. Even if we got to do it through the computer screen, whatever, at least I can see your smiles, this way with the
And I love Tisha.
She is awesome. And for the audience, you will get to meet Tisha next week because she will be part of the discussion with 2 men, 2 women, and I'll be moderating as we talk about how do we protect each other as Black men and women. So I'm very excited for that conversation. So that's actually going to be a 2-part that we'll be releasing next week. So thank you, ladies, for making time to chat. Thank you for being brave and stepping out and launching these podcasts. I know I haven't, at this point, we're recording this in advance, but not even having released it, I'm nervous, but I'm more excited than anything else. I know there will be trolls, just because some people were born to be contrary. And just be forewarned, trolls. I've watched Oprah. So my niece, I'll end with this. So my niece snapped on Oprah on Instagram not too long ago. And, I love Oprah. I think she is so awesome. And I follow her page. And so this was when she had done that interview with some of the accusers that accused Michael Jackson of molestation and sexual assault. And so lots of people were going off on Oprah about that. And I was scrolling through the feed, and I guess the algorithm made my niece's comment pop out because I knew her. Right. So as I was scrolling through, I saw her, she commented several times and she's like, "You're fake, Oprah. You're not right." And I'm like, what? This what we doing? We harassing Oprah now? And so she's a diehard Michael Jackson fan. Like, she loves Michael Jackson like I love Prince. So I mean, I understand, but I screenshotted it and I sent it to my sister Tisha, and I'm like, did you know she's going off on Oprah? And she's like, girl, you know how she is about Michael. So it's, and I looked and I laughed. I said, I probably would have done the same thing if I were her age and somebody was talking about Prince. But there were tons of people snapping on Oprah. I didn't see her comment or respond to either one. She posted some more pictures next of her and her dogs. And so, I'm not going to feed the trolls. I will ignore it. But people who are, messing with the energy, they'll get blocked because I don't entertain that. You can be disagreeable, but you can be constructive. So,
Absolutely.
that's definitely something, knowing there's a level of vulnerability when you put yourself out there like that. But my intention is not to persuade people to change, but to give information and share resources. So you decide what's best for you based on the resources and information that's out there, and really to promote, the talent and, and collective energy in our community. Those are my intentions, not to persuade people on how to think, but here's some guidance for you.
Right.
Yeah.
You will. So thank you, ladies, for all that you do and for chatting with me. I'm so happy and excited for both of you. There's so much work to be done. There is room for all of us, and for anyone else who's listening and thinking about, launching a podcast or a blog. There's no original idea. There's nothing that has not been done in this world. That's a good thing and a bad thing. But there's so much work that needs to be done in terms of healing and empowering our communities. And we will need every soldier, because that's the revolution. It's this empowerment, spreading wellness, spreading some warmth and some love. So thank you for all that y'all do. And my name is Charlene Ketchum, your host of On Her Terms, and I will see you next time.